What's up, you guys? Welcome back. This is Tyler Conahan here from Integratio, and this is our second installation of our Osmose review series. In this video, I want to do a bit of a deeper dive into the Expressive Osmose synth engine, exploring the interface, getting to know more of its unique playing characteristics that I have since found from the last video. Let's dive in. Now, when it comes to the main modes on the Osmose, there are two: the sound engine and the external MIDI mode. Both of these modes have a few different menu options to choose from, and the two encoders over here allow you to move to different sections or tabs within each of the menus. If we start here on the presets menu, you can see we have the factory tab right here. We move over to the user programs or user presets, and then we also have the ability to save all of those presets right here. If we move one more tab over with the synth menu, we have the macros, which we discussed a little bit in the last video: global effects, EQ, comp and gain, voice, mod pedal adjustments, and more. We also have the sensitivity menu, which adjusts the way that the synth plays. This includes some bending, pressure, aftertouch, sensitivity adjustments, and we'll get more into those as we play through the synth. And then we also have this playing tab right here, wherein we can select the arpeggiator or the press glide options. Now, if we go back to the synth menu, you'll also see that the encoder just below can help you explore more options that are represented by these small dots right here on the screen. So, for example, as we scroll through this synth preset, we can see a ton of different items which we can then control. I want to start by going through the preset menu. Like I said before, you can either choose the presets that are already built into the synth, or you can come over here to the user presets. The cool thing about this navigational menu is that rather than scrolling through every single one of the 500 different patches in alphabetical order, you can also choose the type of patch you want and the character of that patch to narrow down what you're looking for. So, for example, we can scroll this down to, let's say, brass, and then we can use the second encoder right here to maybe go all the way down to soft. And then from there, we can choose one of the many presets or patches that are part of that specific menu. Let's try out another one here. Maybe let's scroll to Bode, as I really do like a lot of the Bode samples in this synthesizer. From there, let's go to acoustic, get something a little bit more organic. And let's scroll it down to duo cello. I actually really do like this one a lot. Choosing presets with the encoder button can be a little bit annoying, as there is a little bit of lag, like I mentioned in the last video. However, once you choose one that you like, you can use the preset buttons instead, which is usually how I find myself operating this synth. Of course, if you are hooked up to a computer, you can use the Eagan Matrix and go over to the System Library tab, choose your preset from there, and there are also a few more patch categories to choose from. One of the neat things about the Eagan Matrix is that it also has a helpful search function, so if there's a particular patch or style of patch that you know you like, you can easily search for it here. While I'm on the Eagan Matrix, it's also worth noting that it's pretty easy to save presets to disk or open them from your hard drive if you're plugged into a computer. The user presets are also saved up top here in different groups, and there are 8 patches per group in total. You also have the ability to save and load different groups. Now, if we go to the Synth menu next, we have a couple of different tabs to play around with. The Macros tab, as you can see, has 6 different macros, which will change based on the patch that you're playing. Let's play around with some of these macros on this preset I have loaded up here. Now, if we shift over to the global effects, these are going to be the same for every single patch. And these are pretty much a variety of different reverbs and delays. Let's play around with these and see how they sound. Now, as you can see, each of those global effects is pretty unique, and there are a couple of different ones to choose from, not too many, but the cool thing is that each one of them is very customizable. So of course we have the regular reverb, a mod delay, a swept echo, an analog echo, which is my personal favorite, the low pass filter echo, and the high pass filter echo. All of them sound great, and it gives you a lot of options for, like I said, customizing your different patches. From there, we have the global EQ. Switch over here. And there are a couple of different controls that we can use. The tilt is sort of the main one here. As you can see, this sort of gives us a standard tilt EQ. And then we can also change the frequency of that tilt, which is very nice. So, you know, not a super powerful EQ, but certainly good for just general tonal shaping. I was kind of surprised that they added this little mix knob in here too, so you can mix in the tilt EQ that you create. But it is helpful, and it was kind of a nice, insightful move from Expressive E to give you that little bit of extra tonal customization. Let's see how that sounds with this patch. All right, and from there we get into the comp and gain menu. Let's just play around with some of these features here and see what they do at their most extreme settings. Next, we get to the voice tab, and this allows you to change how the pitch bend is configured. And lastly, we have the mod and pedal assign tab, and this tab is going to allow you to assign destinations to each pedal you plug into the back of the unit or the built-in mod wheel. Now, the mod wheel is often tied to one of the internal synth macros, and this can conjure up variations in each sound a little more quickly than the encoders can. The same can be said for the pedal inputs as well, which are configurable for expression pedals. And if you go to the Expressive E website, you will find a list of the compatible pedals for this synth. To test out how this works, we'll first go to Mod Pedal 2, as anything that you can control with a regular pedal can also be controlled with the modulation slider. So if we assign this mod pedal to sustain, for example, it'll work just like a sustain pedal would when it's pushed up. And as you can see, once I dip that slider below 0, it acts as if I'm taking my foot off of the sustain pedal and the notes all cut out. Let's now assign the mod pedal to Sostenuto 1, as that works similar to sustain, but just a bit differently. The unique thing about this is that you can use it to capture a set of notes, and then anything after that capture you can play independently of the sustain. Let's check that out really quick. Now, if you want to get really crazy, you can use the Sostenuto 2 setting, and that's just going to give you another Sostenuto group on top of the 1. So pretty cool, pretty flexible. From there, we get into the sensitivity menu, which allows you to change the response of the keyboard action. The first tab that you're going to see is the bending tab, and this is going to allow you to change the response of the lateral movement on each key, including the pitch bend range and the amount of stabilization. Let's see how those sound in action. Now, after a bit of playing around with this, I've noticed that because of the limitations of the sideways key travel, it's usually best to go with about 1 to 2 semitones on the bend range. Although if you do put in wider ranges, you can get some pretty out there results. So definitely have fun experimenting with that. Of course, if you're playing a patch and you don't want any pitch bends whatsoever, you can disable the pitch bend altogether. And this can be especially nice if you're, playing big sort of cluster chords and you don't want any notes to accidentally bend out of tune. Of course, you can try and address this with the other sensitivity settings on board, but that is there and it's definitely worth noting. From there, we have the pressure tab, and this is going to change the response of the first part of the key travel. Now, the note on parameter determines the position where a key actually triggers a note, and you can adjust the response of the pressure dimension with different curves. Let's test that out. Now, if you start playing around with this keyboard and you find yourself triggering notes unintentionally very often, like I first did when I got it, then you may want to shift the note on threshold to bring your playing style more towards the classic key bed feel. And this means that notes will only be triggered when you push a key right down to the bottom. Next, you have the Aftertouch tab, which changes the response of the second part of the key travel. Now, the more notes that you play at once, the harder it can be to really push fully into the key's aftertouch without unintentionally bending notes, like I said before. So in this situation, I might prefer to go with a more sensitive aftertouch that doesn't require a lot of force to activate. On the other hand, if a preset triggers a special sound feature upon entering the aftertouch, such as, the automatic ratcheting of a plucked sound, and you wish to have a bit more separation, it can help to dial in the aftertouch curve. Pressing the tab selector in the sensitivity menu also switches the sensitivity freeze on and off. When you have the freeze enabled, the current sensitivity settings will be kept across all of your preset changes, no matter the default sensitivity and no matter whether there's a custom sensitivity saved in a user preset. Now, beyond the pressure sensitivity that the Osmose is known for, one of the more important aspects of the synth is the pressure glide. And this is thanks to the innovative built-in software. Now, most synthesizers have a glide parameter that you can adjust prior to playing, which doesn't change the way that you play. On the Osmose, however, you can control the speed of the glide based on how much pressure you're applying between the initial and secondary notes, or the destination note, however you want to refer to it. The pressure glide works throughout the entirety of the keyboard, though you can also tweak it to use narrower glide intervals in the pressure glide menu. To do that, you're going to go into the playing menu up top and then scroll down to pressure glide. From there, you can configure it so that you have a smaller pressure glide interval. So let's say we set that to a minor sixth. So this means that if we play a minor sixth interval, we'll play that with a pressure glide, though any two notes beyond that, we can play completely polyphonically. If you want to get really nerdy about this, you can even play polyphonically if you suss out the right intervals to play. Do note that you have to release the initial note before the glide is going to reach the secondary note or ultimate destination. If you play within the set pressure glide distance, you'll get this sort of in-between tone that's kind of a weird microtonal hybrid of the two chosen notes. Of course, if your max is set to 2 semitones, then you can still play polyphonically, but any notes 2 semitones apart or less will become intertwined and produce a single note, and that pitch will sort of change as you move between keys. I'm really hoping that in the future, Expressive E puts out a firmware update wherein the pressure that you apply to the destination note determines the ultimate pitch rather than the pressure that's applied to the source note. It's just sort of a weird thing to get used to. Even with that said, the pressure glide opens up tons of unique playing gestures, like, these weird sort of up-down flicks of the hand, or these really slow glissandos. The last thing I want to get into in this video is the arpeggiator. And though there aren't a lot of factory presets on here that use the arpeggiator in stock, as most of them are attached to other gestures, there's a really, really good arpeggiator built in that you can find in the playing tab. The unique thing about this arpeggiator compared to others is that each of the output notes is not played in an identical fashion. Instead, each of the notes you play here can have a different pitch, tone, timbre, depending on how you play each key, because remember, this is a multi-dimensional key bed. So, for example, if I play a chord and start pressing down harder on just some of the notes, only the notes that I'm pressing down harder on will change in terms of their overall timbre. Of course, there are a lot of other adjustments that you can make within the Arpeggiator tab, such as bringing up or down the tempo. You can also change the pattern and the way the notes are divided. There's a really handy gate feature on here as well. Of course, as with any standard arpeggiator, you do get the octave range adjustment capabilities and some swing as well. I do really like the sound of the ratchet on this synth too. So yeah, very, very flexible. There are 10 parameters in total, many of which can be modulated in real time by the control inputs from the keys, from pedals, from the mod and pitch sliders or wheels, and all sorts of things are possible. To end this video off, I'm going to play through a couple more presets that I've come to love since making the last video, so you can get more of an idea of how the Osmose sounds in action. All right, there you have it, a deep dive into the synth engine of Expressive E's Osmose. The onboard engine is incredibly versatile, incredibly flexible, functional, you name it. Lots of fun to play with, and it would honestly take me months of exploration to really get to know everything. Of course, there's also the Eagan Matrix, which I do want to get into in the next video because it's truly its own beast. But for now, I hope you enjoyed listening to the Osmose, and definitely subscribe to Integratio to see more in-depth synth videos just like this one. My name's Tyler Conahan. Thank you guys for watching.